All right. So, hold on a sec. Use this headphone to keep my hair out my eyes. All right. Maybe I'll cut this part out. Okay. So, this is a deck I've been playing for a while now. This is the fucking Mind Killer Doomsday, Rainbow Turbo Spoils Doomsday, Sicko Mode Doomsday, whatever you want to call it. Um, I've had a couple 4-1 leagues with it. I haven't managed to get the 5-0, mostly due to spoils killing me. Uh, so it's been going pretty good for me though. I think I've cashed all but maybe one league I've played with it. So 3 2s and 4 1s. But anyway, so I was just played a random match in the practice room while I had a little bit of time, downtime at work, and I wanted to walk through the replay because it was a really nutty match, and I think it kind of goes to show that this deck can beat blue decks, can beat Force of Will decks, even without requiring the card silence. So like without the sideboard, and so I just wanted to walk through it because it really is a good example of the power level at play here and how you actually can fight through some of these counterspell decks. So I'm gonna walk through it for you. Now it's good to keep in mind a couple things. This was the practice room match. There's um, uh, the construction of my opponent's deck could be called into question. The play skill of my opponent could be called into question. Um, but I don't think it really diminishes that much from what you're about to see. So let's jump in. All right, so I win the roll, and I'm on the play. What the fuck is that? Do I have to click yes? Oh, and of course I clicked. Okay, so this hand's pretty good, as you can see. It's got the Echo, it's got 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, and a Gemstone Mine. So the game plan here really is play out the mine, crack the LEDs for red and black, and use the mine to make blue to flashback the Echo. So we'll continue stepping through here. My opponent also keeps 7. So I play the mine, I play an LED, and it gets forced. Come on here. Yep, so they pitch a Force of Will to cast the Force of Negation. So I'm thinking, great, 2 counterspells. They've used up 2 counterspells. They almost certainly don't have another, and they probably think I'm on Dredge, so they're taking my LEDs to prevent me from having a discard outlet. So I go, okay, I'm just play the other LED and I'll Echo, and we'll see what happens. Well, this one also gets forced. This time, it's they just cast Force of Will, pitching a Baleful Strix. So obviously, this gives us a little bit of information about what they're on. They're on some kind of slower blue-black base control deck of sorts. Um, so I go, okay. I actually almost just scooped here. Um, but I figured they'd use so many of their counter spells that if I could draw into a little bit more mana and an Empty the Warrens, excuse me, and an Empty the Warrens, I might just be able to get there anyway. And I wanted to gain a little bit more information about what they're actually playing before we go in. So I'm just going to let this play for a little while because it took me a while to get to the point where I actually win the game. So they play Prismatic Vista, get Snow Covered Island, and they ponder, and I think the ponder shuffles. Yep, ponder shuffles. Um, and then I draw a Doomsday. So drawing the Doomsday is actually really good here. If I can draw another mana, then I can Cabal it into Doomsday, and then make a Doomsday pile that wins with the Manamorphose and the Thassa's Oracle. And potentially, since the Oracle's in my hand, I could even make the very last card be an LED so that I have a chance to Echo and loop it all back, and maybe, depending on how things shake out, maybe try again with the Oracle. So my opponent starts casting Brainstorms. Obviously, they've spent so many resources at this point that they don't have a lot. Presumably, they don't have any more counter magic in their hand. They're spent. And their brainstorm did not find them a fetch land, so they're brainstorm locked here. But I didn't draw anything very good either. They brainstorm again, still no fetch land. So they brainstorm another time. So they've only seen a couple cards off this brainstorm, and they still don't find a fetch land, which is good for me. But I obviously, they could have found another counterspell by this point. I draw the Dark Writ, so I just decided to cast Doomsday because I can make a pass turn pile here that'll have another mana source on top for the Manamorphose, but they had another fucking Force Negation. And you can also see that they exiled Yuriko, so they're on like bug ninjas, but they still don't have any black mana sources, which makes it a little hard for them to do shit. So continuing to just play through here. So I have now gotten hit with 3 counterspells out of the blue deck, and they finally drop something. So they drop this Oko, which obviously it doesn't change the game plan all that much for me. Oko is basically, it's just a clock at this point. It does mean I can't really play out artifacts unless I have a plan for them. But anyway, so I draw a second mana source, but I can't really do anything with it right now, and so I decide to just pass because I don't have a clear game plan. The one thing to note here is that Empty the Warrens is becoming pretty bad now. That's one thing Oko does do, is it makes Empty pretty bad due to the food tokens and just the ability to generate blockers in game life and everything. So I actually decide, since I drew the extra land, I decide I'm just going to cast the Thassa's Oracle. Because it draws and it digs and it blocks, and it's not doing anything in my hand. So I figure it's fine to cast. I think long and hard about whether I want to keep either of these cards. Like, they probably don't have any counter magic in their hand, but the number of goblins I'd be generating is like 6, maybe 7 if Manamorphose draws me something good. Like, best case scenario, I Morphose into another Morphose. And I said 7, but I meant 8. Morphose into Morphose, and like you generate a little extra storm that way. I decide I'm just going to put both of them on the bottom. The Burning Wish especially is not really doing anything for me because I don't have enough mana. I'm not at the point where I could get Threshold for this Cabal Writ. So, like, I'm really looking for more mana to maybe be able to hard cast an Echo. So I decided to say no, which I just clicked instead of the play button. So I put them both on the bottom and pass the turn. And then they attack in again. I think at this point I do block. I can't remember. I just, like, there's no reason for me not to block, and it helps me get towards Threshold for this Cabal Writ. Okay, apparently I didn't block. I probably should have blocked. But anyway, so now I drew Spoils of the Vault. And since they have only 2 cards in hand, I'm not really going to get a better opportunity than this. So I'm going to step through here so we don't go too quick. So I exile my Spirit Guide, I cast my Morphose. I don't use the Gemstone Mine just yet to make the mana. Because I'm casting the Spoils of the Vault, I probably should have used a Gemstone Mine, just so I had one more life. But anyway, the game plan here is to Cabal Writ and then Spoils for Lionside Diamond. So I make red and black. I just draw the Chromok so I can play that and imprint one of the Echoes on it, and that'll be my blue mana source so that I can crack the LED for red. And then I cast Cabal Writ. I Spoils from 12 life, and like a true hero, the LED is right on top. And so I play it, it resolves, I crack it. I use the Mox for the blue, like I said. The Echo also resolves. And I draw a pretty good hand. This hand is good enough where I can I have enough mana where like once that ritual resolves, I'm good. I'll definitely be able to make enough goblins, but I might even be able to kill them with tendrils if they don't have anything. So I'm just gonna press play here. We don't need to press through. So I play out the Mox. I print one of the empties on it. I cast the Burning Wish. I expect this to get countered, but it doesn't, and so I just grab the tendrils. And obviously they're at 18. I have 22 storms, so I have enough. Or I have 22 damage with this, so I have enough to beat the life gain from the food. Um, and they give me this nice little comment that I thought was funny. They're a little salty. All their non-black lands are on the table, but GG. So a little salty, but still being a good sport. So that's that's relatable. I don't know exactly why they cared about their black sources. Possibly because they could have flashed something in, or played like a frickin' what's that? Dust, bring to dust, grind to dust, cling to dust. That's the one. And gain some life. And if they would have been able to gain enough life to that plus the food to put them out of range. Um, except even that's what 6 life, and then yeah, that might have been enough. But anyway, so I won this game through 3 counter spells, which is not bad. And now we'll go on to the next one because this one was pretty good. So here I'm on the draw, and I ship this hand because it doesn't have any business spells. One thing I've slowly kind of come to grasp is that um, it can be okay to keep hands without business spell and a lot of mana in certain matchups because especially like for example against Delver, if I had a hand that was a lot of mana and like good mana too, not super shaky mana and a silence, I might just keep it. The deck is very business dense, and with the protective spell, it's a lot more reasonable to keep a hand that's just mana because you're probably going to draw business. But this hand is just mana, no silence, so I'm going to ship it. Even though you do get to see a couple new cards with Amorphoses, I think it's just too risky because you're looking to draw exactly empty the warrens basically. This hand is an interesting one. I keep this hand. I don't think it's unreasonable, although it's at the lower end of what I would consider keepable. But because we're in a very counterspell heavy matchup, I think it's fine. It's got 2 business spells, which means we can eat a discard spell or a counterspell. If you Burning Wish and it resolves, you can just, like for example, grab Empty the Warrens, and then you might be able to hardcast Empty the Warrens without having to do a Burning Wish, or you can Burning Wish for Cabal Therapy or something like that. So I think this hand is reasonable, and the one thing I decided to do is I put back the Gemstone Mine because I think my having permanent mana sources, like truly permanent mana sources, is more valuable in this matchup than my life total. And I draw the Lion's Eye Diamond, which is very good. So I just play land and pass here. And on my next turn, what do they do? So I think they cast a Strix here. Yeah, and on my next turn, I just hardcast a Burning Wish. And I drew a 3rd Burning Wish, which is actually like really good, because now I can. Well, you'll see what happens. We'll walk through it. I don't want to jump ahead too much. So this first Burning Wish resolves, and I just grab Cabal Therapy, because at this point I'm planning on making goblins. Um, and so they play the Yuriko, Flash and Yuriko, and find a Ponder. So I'm just gonna pause on after my draw step. So I drew an Empty the Warrens here, which is like super good. Um, and I wanted to mention that I ended up drawing very well for this matchup, hitting the Lion's Eye Diamond and then like running business spells. The LED gives me the mana that I need to be able to like multi-spell in a turn, like multiple business spells in a turn, and then actually drawing the multiple business spells that I need to be able to fight through any potential counter magic they have it was really good for me. Um, so I'll let this play again here. So I start with the Cabal Therapy because like I can go Cabal Therapy, right, LED, empty, and that's two, three, five spells. So 10 goblins is pretty good. Plus I have the therapy to take something from their hand if I want. Um, I also could go therapy, make Rite of Flame, and then like Burning Wish, it gets countered, and then like Burning Wish for Echo or something like that. Um, so I named Force of Will. I miss. That went by pretty quick. I named Force of Will and I missed, but they had Force of Negation. So I decided that I'm just going to go for it anyway because if they don't force the rituals, then I just get to make goblins, which is perfectly fine. And so they don't force the rituals, and especially I think not forcing the second ritual is kind of odd. Actually, do they force this LED? They did not force the LED. Okay, I couldn't see it for some reason. I wasn't seeing it. But anyway, so I make my goblins, and then I flashback the empty the warrens, and I hit I take the Oko because to me the Oko seems like the only thing in their hand that can really stop me from potentially winning. Like would let them be able to gain enough life that they can stop me. Now that idea is a little questionable because they have a lot of creatures, and I don't have a lot of goblins, especially after I sack one to Cabal Therapy. But I still have the Burning Wishes that could be used to make more goblins or do a little grape shot to mop up. And so I think taking the Oko is still the right play there. Um, and especially because I played out my LED, I don't want them to Oko my LED because I need it to do the Burning Wish thing. So I think Oko is the take on two fronts there. I'll get rid of that. So I draw the third Rite of Flame. So obviously I'm drawing well. You got to draw well if you want to be able to beat decks like this. But but still. So I attack. Get in there for 7 damage. And then once again they don't counter this, which to me I think is pretty questionable. Um, so I make my red. I cast this Burning Wish. This Burning Wish gets countered, and then I can Burning Wish again, and I make enough goblins that I will definitely kill them on the next attack, and they just concede to that amount of goblins. So as you can see, able to power through quite a lot of disruption in game one, um, and was able to leverage my multiple business spells to get through the disruption, and in kind of two like waves of attacking or not literally like combat phase attacking, but being the aggressor, I was able to create a lethal situation through a counterspell in the second game as well, with some help from really good draws. So anyway, yeah, don't let people if you want to try this deck. I know it's kind of silly, but if you ever want to try this deck, like don't get turned off because you think it's going to lose to counterspells. Like it's going to happen once in a while. It's going to happen sometimes, but you can definitely beat counterspells. The the thing to be afraid of with this deck is losing to Spoils of the Vault, because if you're the type of person who can't shake that off, then this deck is definitely not for you. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching.